Welcome to Learner's Planet, dear children. Children, this is quiz session 3 about growing plants. So children, in this quiz session, we will solve some logical and interesting questions and answers. So children, let's start with this quiz session. So children, the first question which I am going to read for you is that crops are grown on a fertile soil and they are scattered well and they grow very well. So children, the conditions provided over here or the things which are mentioned is, in first farm, pesticides are not sprayed, right? Means in first farm, the crops are grown on a fertile soil, they are even scattered well, and they also grow very well because all the conditions are provided, alright? And fertile soil means nutritive soil, the soil which is full of nutrients, because of which a crop can be grown in a very healthy condition, right? And in the second farm also, crops are being grown on a fertile soil, they are scattered well and they are grown very well, alright? But what has happened in the second farm? It is the condition that pesticides are not sprayed. So in the first farm, pesticides are sprayed, and in the second farm, pesticides are not sprayed. This is the difference between these two farms. So what is the question now? Yes, the question to you is that which farm will act as the best food for pests? What will be the answer, children? What can be the correct answer, children? In which farm the pests will attack? Sorry, on which farm the pests will attack, or the pest will have their yummy food? Because the crops have been scattered well, they have been provided with efficient or sufficient water, and they are also provided with the fertile soil that is full of nutrients, and that is why the result which came out is the crops grow very well also. But the thing is that pesticides are sprayed in first farm and it is not sprayed in second farm. So for which farm the pests will have their best food? Yes, children, what can be the answer? Just think about it. As we studied, children, that there are some very much important steps of agriculture, and if we do not follow one of them, or if we skip even one of them, then all the hard work which we did for growing crops will be wasted, right? So the steps of agriculture, or the stages of agriculture which we saw, were that first of all the field is plowed, then manure is added to the soil, then seeds are sown, then crops are watered, or we can say that the crops are irrigated, and then pesticides are sprayed to protect the crops. So children, we can say that when crops are grown, after that they are sprayed with the pesticides to protect the crops, and then they are harvested, right? So it is a step, the spraying of pesticide is a step before harvesting the crops, right? So children, we haven't harvested the crops yet. The harvesting process is yet remained. So children, we are discussing about the step of spraying pesticides. how important is this step of spraying pesticide in agriculture? It was very important, right? Why? Yes. First, let us answer this question, children. The answer for this question will be this second farm, right? Second farm will act as the best food source or the best food for pests. Why, children? Why is it so? Because pesticides are such chemicals in which there are some substances which will kill the pests, and if they will kill the pests, then our crops will be in a very healthy condition because they are not attacked by the pests. So children, what will happen actually? The thing which will happen is that our crops will be in a protected condition, right? We can protect the crops from getting damaged from the pests by spraying pesticides, right? So children, in the first farm where their pesticides are sprayed, what will happen? The crops have grown well. Now when they are sprayed with the pesticides, they will be protected from the pests and then they will be harvested. But what has happened in the second farm is that the pesticides are not sprayed. Now when the pesticides are not sprayed, that means the crops will get damaged by the pests, right? Or they may get damaged by the pests. So what will happen? Pests will attack on them. It will act as the best food for them. They will eat them and they will damage the crops. So for pests, it is a very useful and it is very good food to eat. But for us, crops have been damaged. So that is of no use. And after that, even harvesting it also, it is not in use. Right? Okay, children? So children, the second farm will act as the best food for pests. So children, I hope this is clear to you. Let's move on to the second question. Yes. Second question is that mushrooms have no seeds of their own, but they still grow on the soil. So how is this possible, children? Yes, children. We studied about this thing in the theory session that plants can grow from seeds, right? But we also studied in that all the seeds are not able to grow into new plants because some are eaten by birds, insects, some are destroyed by rain or wind, some do not get sufficient air, water, warmth to grow. But there are other things also, children. That there are some plants which grow from the other parts of the plants like roots, stem and leaves. But here, mushrooms, they have no seeds of their own. That means the condition can be that they can grow from other parts of the plant. So do mushrooms have leaves? Can they grow from the leaves? No, they do not have leaves. So can they grow from the roots? No, mushrooms do not have roots also. They do not possess roots. Then do they grow from stem? No, they do not have so large and strong stem also from where they can grow. So what are they? How they can grow? After some time, we see that mushrooms grow. Though mushroom requires large amount of water to grow, Okay, now we are providing this condition also, that we are providing these mushrooms with lot of water. We are watering it, right? And even if we do not sow mushrooms, then also they are growing by their own. Oh, so how is this possible, children? They are getting soil, they are getting air, they are getting warmth also. But how is this possible, children? Yes, children, can you recall we also studied about one more thing, that some plants do not have seeds, but they grow with the help of tiny structures. Right? For example, fungi, ferns and mushrooms also. So, they reproduce with the help of some tiny structures which are called as, yes, what they are called as, children? They are termed as spores. Yes. Mushrooms have no seeds of their own, but they still grow on the soil because they have spores. Right? So because of these tiny structures called spores, they are able to grow into new plants. That is, they grow into many mushrooms. Alright? How this happens? That mushrooms grow by forming spores, and then these spores are dispersed by wind because they are very light in weight and they are very spongy. Right? So the seeds, they do not have seeds, but the spores are very light in weight and they are spongy. So they can be carried away by the wind. So dispersal by wind takes place in such plants. Right? So children, because of this dispersal by wind, the spores are able to transfer or transport from one place to another place. And that is why mushrooms are able to grow. Right? But provided with the nutritive soil and with other conditions also. Alright children, so I hope this is clear to you. Let's move on to the next question. Yes. So the next question is that after harvesting, which is the last step of agriculture, the conditions mentioned over here are that crops were kept in an open container and the crops were preserved in a closed container, no matter whatever crops they are, right? So there were some crops that after harvesting they were kept in an open container, and some crops were preserved in a closed container. So children, the question for you is that which is the correct way for the crops from getting damaged? So children, we have sprayed pesticides to protect the crops from pests, but is there any other reason also, or do we require any other method also to prevent crops from getting damaged? Yes children, first we will answer this question. After harvesting, the crops which will get damaged is A. That means the crops which were kept in an open container, because as you know children, that in the step of agriculture, the last step is that the crops are harvested. Harvested means they are cut and gathered when the crops are totally in a ripened condition. Right? So children, crops also need protection from birds, insects, rats, etc. before and after harvesting. Here we are talking about after harvesting. Right? So children, after harvesting also crops need protection from birds, insects and rodents like rats. Right? So if we will keep in an open container, they will be attacked by rodents, birds or insects. Right? So the crops will get damaged right? So the correct way for the crops from getting damaged is B. That is, crops should be preserved in a closed container, because keeping in a closed container will protect the crops from birds, insects and rodents like rats. Alright, and in this way the crops will get protected from getting damaged. Alright children. So children, as for humans, as for us, like drinking uncovered water or eating uncovered food is very much bad for our health. So another question is that rice and cotton crops are grown in plenty of rainfall, and they grow mainly in the month of June to October, and they are also called as monsoon crops. So children, what is the name given to these type of crops? Yes children, this is a very simple, straightforward question. Rice and cotton crops need plenty of water to grow. Alright, and they mainly grow in the month of June to October, that is in the monsoon, right? June to October means monsoon can occur in these months only, and that is why they are termed as monsoon crops. Alright, because they grow in the rainy season. So children, what is the name given to these crops? I will give you a hint children. These are sown in rainy season and they are also called as the autumn harvest. The crops grown in this season are called as autumn harvest. Right? And these crop name is actually written in Arabic language, which means autumn in English. So what is the name, children? Yes, the name of these crops are Kharif crops. Alright. So Kharif crops means the autumn crops. Alright, because they mainly grow in the season of autumn. Alright children. So children, now let's see another question. This was a very simple question. Yes. Now you have to think. Yes children, so the question is, legume plants are known for their ability to fix nitrogen from the atmosphere, and they contain high protein content. Alright? Means they are very proteinaceous. Right? Legumes are proteinaceous. Right. We studied about it. So children, what is it that makes legume plants so desirable crops in agriculture? Right? As you know that legume plants are being the most used or the most desirable crops in agriculture. And the second question to you is that who fixes the nitrogen? As we discussed that legume plants are known for their ability to fix nitrogen from the atmosphere, right? So, how does this nitrogen get fixed from the atmosphere into these plants? Do they come like nitrogen is a type of gas, right? So, nitrogen will come from the air and it will ask for the permission from the legume plants. That come on now, let me enter into you. Is it so? No, is it not? It is not so. This is very funny, right? And legumes, by this ability, because of getting nitrogen fixed into them, they contain high protein, because of which they become very proteinaceous, and this proteinaceous legume plants are very much useful for our health if we consume them, right? So children, the question is that what makes it so desirable? Right? It makes it desirable because of this nitrogen content. Right? So the answer is simple, and there are the two questions have been asked. So the first question's answer is that the legume plants are so desirable crops in agriculture is because of the nitrogen content in them. Right? So nitrogen is present in them. Because of this, they are very proteinaceous. Right? And the second thing which has been asked is who fixes the nitrogen from the atmosphere into these plants. Right? So the answer for this is yes, bacteria. The bacteria will fix the nitrogen from the atmosphere into these plants. And where are these bacteria present? They are present in the soil. Alright? Which makes the soil nutritious for the plants, and then the plants will absorb all the nutrients and water from the soil. Right? So this is very much important for you to remember that nitrogen content in the leguminous plants or legume plants will make them desirable crops in agriculture, and how this nitrogen is fixed into the plants. It is fixed into the plants with the help of the bacteria present in the soil. They will take this nitrogen from the atmosphere and they will fix it, and then the plants, the part of the plants will absorb this nitrogen content from the soil, and they will then give it to all the other parts of the plant. They will pass on to other parts of the plant, and this way the whole plant will get the nitrogen. Alright children? So children, I hope that you enjoyed this session and you enjoyed solving logical questions and answers. So children, we will meet in the next session. Till then, keep learning and keep enjoying and keep thinking. Thank you children.